Thank you so much for coming here today. So we will hope to put up a good show. We want to talk about CX, about technology, about the role of AI, and how does unification really happen? How does all the autonomous by default, right? Like what can be automated today, and we also talk about. The role of CRM or other technologies that you're using today. So for this, we have friends over from Smallcase. Linish, please.
Linish, I head CX for smallcase. You may or may not have heard of this, but if you are ever looking to invest, then we should definitely talk. Um, I've done stints in healthcare before, and some of the common things which people ask me, how did you end up in fintech from healthcare? That's the only two places I don't think you can say sorry and get away with it. So I think it translates well. Uh, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Looks like an exciting topic.
Cool. Yeah. The next panelist I have is Anthony. Anthony is from Kiwi. Anthony.
Many might not know me, but first thing is, it's very difficult to bring that CS blood in one room. That is the one rarest thing that you see, right? You don't see CS folks sitting together and in one roof and talk about CS stuff. I am very happy for that.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah. Please have a seat, yes. Yeah. All right. So let's start off this topic. So this topic is basically about AI unifies, CRM dies, but CX thrives. Quite contradicting, right? Yeah. So this is the background of the conversation that we are going to have, and then there's many freewheeling discussions that we take on from there. But first, I want to ask you a question. And thing. So we CX, right? It's there from a long time, but it's also recently evolved too. One controversial question: is CX just a title change from customer support, or what else?
It's fancy nowadays, yes. But see, we if you look at few years back, right? Everybody used to say customer support. Customer support evolved in days. AI changed everything recently, especially when COVID hit hard. We never knew customer service could happen at home also. People started working from home, handling calls. Call centers started innovatively thinking how to serve customers and stuff. But when you reached out to a support, the mindset was, what is service and support? Support was just a subset of service. People reach out telling, I have a problem. We try to problem solve the technical issues, whatever customer said, and you forgot. But what we wanted to evolve is service. People started understanding what was that problem. Should my customer come back to me again? My customer is not unique. Everybody is a customer to me. A person faced a problem. Is he going to face it once again? Or the other person is also going to face the same problem? Because the subject of problem is same across the board, right? So we wanted to change it as a service that it also understands the emotions of customer. It's not just problem solving. We also try to dedicate ourselves to make and feel the customer that, okay, we have served you well. Next time you approach, I introduce myself with, hi, how are you? No. I tell you, hey, I understood that you're facing a problem somewhere. You have reached at the right place and the right time. Let me solve your problem. That is where we are now. So that is something as service that I feel we have changed a lot over the decade. And I think it is going to change a lot with what AI is going to do. That's
The same question to you. How have you seen the space of customer support, customer service, and a meta space of CX on top of it? What are the changes that you see?
To answer your initial question, I think a lot of companies have just changed the name and not changed anything else, and they are falling behind.
Hmm.
But in reality, I think more than the technology coming in and forcing you to look at it differently, I think customers are forced you to look at it differently. Like about 5, 6 years ago, it was very acceptable for you to reply in a chat maybe 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
You get groceries at home in 10 minutes now. So a customer's not like their external environment has changed so much
Hmm.
that they're not willing to accept this anymore. Right? So if you don't evolve along with that, I think you fall behind. And then there are companies who are kind of moving forward, and the companies who are still maintaining metrics, so to speak, operationally, right? And they think they're doing a good job, but I think their customers are leaking away. So I think while the shift people started talking about a lot longer, probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago or so, I think the real shift has really started to accelerate now. Right? Probably in the last year and a half is when it's really started to catch on. I still think it's very early doors. There's a long way to go there to really unlock. Right now, it's the fanciest place you can put AI and then call it AI enabled, right? And it's easy to do and try to put it in the customer's face so that they feel that we are ahead. But rather, you're better off kind of, especially in a support use case, I strongly feel that you're better off actually enabling your internal team to answer better with better context, avoiding the back and forth, rather than just saying, here's a bot, interact with it, figure it out.
Yeah, true.
Right? So there's still some way to go. And I think we'll get there, but there'll be some who'll get there ahead of the others and force everyone else to get there.
Yeah. No, perhaps. The next question I want to actually like come back to you on this is uh, you said that it's a long way to go. What are the things that needs to happen in an organization to make that a reality?
I think this is something which I think whenever you do manage to get CX people in the room, like Anthony said, hard to get, but when we do, people keep talking about seat at the table,
Yeah.
saying that CX doesn't have a seat at the table. I agree that CX needs to work a little harder than the others to get that seat at the table, but they have a very important seat at that table. And so there's a bit of proving to be done, but once you do it, I think you're there. And historically, I think we've just fought so hard to get there with insight. Now, insight's not very difficult as long as you have the data. Right? Before, what would manually take you hours of effort can be done in minutes now. So it's a matter of now how you position and get there. I think that's step one. When you bring that to the table, I think then you'll have to align the larger company and organization towards it. You can build a great system where you're able to help your customers, say, in a few minutes or a few seconds. But if there's a technical problem and your tech team tells you that they will get back to you in 4 days, doesn't work, right? So then there is a larger alignment at play. And that equity can be brought about by saying that, listen, here are the things that we've already been doing. Here's the expectation we're starting to set. I think we'll all have to kind of now, get to a point where we all agree on how we go about things. And that is when I think the real shift starts to happen. Before that, it's siloed. It's inconsistent, right? If it's a non-tech problem, maybe response is fantastic. Maybe it's a tech problem and then it takes ages. And then there is no communication because you're not getting anything from them to tell the customer. So you're giving holding replies. And then you look terrible to the customer. So that larger alignment is important. And it's not just an alignment, I think it's a cultural shift. You'll have to get everyone there. And I think that there's a very important role CX plays in that. And to build that equity, I think there's a lot of insight that we bring to the table, the voice of the customer, so to speak, which is easier than it has ever been to do in this day and age. So I think that's where we need to start. I'm sure a lot of us are actually doing it. I think it's a matter of positioning, and then it takes its course of time. And I think that's the arc of the journey we're in right now. And once that starts falling in place, I think it's just momentum. It'll build.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Wherever a customer experience leader is not at they don't have a seat at the table where the decision is made, I think that table is deprived of that one person who speaks for the customer. And the businesses exist today because of a customer, right? So I think that's such an important point that you made there. So Anthony, I wanted to ask you on how does how do you ensure that when you're on that table, when you're talking to other functions, right? What are the types of insights that you can share so that they can actually start trusting that, hey, you have the best insights, you know the customer better, like your all the business decisions that are now going to be taken are taken with your confidence in it. How do you go about doing that?
Yes, definitely. When you get that seat, which is itself a milestone together, talking to people, getting them to know what is happening on the ground level. We are the first level folks who try to be the shield for the company, right? Try stop person and say, I'll get back to you in 24 hours or 72 hours. But what is that main thing that we would always try to focus is, we would try to break those silos, right? Try to tell people, make them understand the point of emotion that the customer undergoes, right? Whenever I say we, it is me as a customer who represents the customer's voice and all this stuff. But they will have to also try to understand what is the operating model that we work today, right? Today our operating model is completely different. You just take a complaint, tell it to someone, as you said, 24 hours I'll get back to you. Somebody is, ours is not a top priority P0 for the day one, whatever we are talking about. But when we build an operating model, tell customers problem, let's say last week I had this top three problems. I feel in order to stitch this, I have three barriers. I will have to talk to the product, marketing, as well as to the tech. But they own have their own priorities, and it is very difficult to manage things, right? But if there is an operating model, I talk to the customer, that is also visible to you. How is your own product impacting end of the day? How much of your effort that if you put just 5 minutes of your day to improvise, how happy is the customer? Indirectly, what are you achieving? You're also going to achieve churn, right? Nobody's going to leave you out. Your customer feels okay. Like rightly said, how many people does bank recognize, or how many of your bank knows your people, right? Today I'll tell you, nobody knows, and most of the customer doesn't want to. But forget banks, think about fintechs, think about hospitality, right? They come out and expect you to know everything because they do transactions on your app. They feel that my personal transaction, my personal information is with you. I go to a place, I try to do a transaction, it fails. Every human being, everybody is a customer here. I panic, my amount is gone. I am in a very frustrated situation now. I reach out to you and you tell me that I will raise it to my tech and they will get back to you in another 48 minutes or 72 hours. That is a barrier, and I wanted to break that barrier. What is that something they could do? Correct. Let's say a customer comes to me and I say, I saw there was a failure that I see and I've already raised a refund for you. In the next 4 hours you should receive it. If I have to tell this, I should have everything that I need along with all the partners in the system today. But if they have to know that, I'll have to tell them what are the barriers are there to reach out to this particular person, right? The barrier is built by them. We have to break that barrier, but we also need a good operating model to do this. That will be the proposal, telling that let's take top three scenarios for last week. Let's break this and see what is the fruit that comes out of it. Definitely it's going to be the benefit of the customer and to the product end of the day. So there every day there is a product coming out in the market because AI is becoming so easy. Even I'm being an MBA graduate, I'm writing codes nowadays. So
Nice.
GPT is trying to evolve everything and it is teaching you the basics. So it is very hard to hold a customer today, and customers are your god end of the day. You need them back, and in order to control your churn, this is something that I will put it on the plate.
Such a wonderful point that you made. That actually brings me to my next important question, right? So, you spoke about operating model. Operating models can be operational because of the systems underneath that. Uh, we should talk about CRMs, as it's always been spoken that that's the backbone of the whole customer anything is a CRM first, as their first pane of glass, right? Has it been sufficient, or what are the gaps in the CRMs that we use?
See, what I see is today CRMs are, we are still sometimes old school, right? It's not conversational. It's just the data set that you see in the CRM. It tries to tell you, these many customers came in, these were the problems, and still there are manual interventions where an agent goes, predicts the problem, but sentiment is created by an agent today.
Hmm.
He is never into, you might understand, as Welly said, that it is not a direct eye to eye conversation, right? It's a digital conversation that we have. You might not understand the customer's frustration over an email until unless he's using fancy words.
Hmm.
The sentiment that I put in through might be not so accurate. So what I'll end up doing is, CRM gave me a data, I'll pass the plate to someone telling, this customer has a problem. There's no P0, P1 here.
Hmm.
My CRM should have conversational insights. It should identify the intent and understand, okay, this is on fire.
Hmm.
There needs more empathy towards this, right? If the CRM is able to talk with the conversation, come to a sentiment, and this sentiment is shared with every stakeholder
Hmm.
who's responsible for that particular case, right? This helps me a lot. Let's say tomorrow a customer writes to me an email. Definitely customer has a mindset that I'm not going to get an immediate response on the email, but he has this thought process of, email is a document. But if
Hmm.
I need an immediate response, the first thing that he does is, the moment I write an email, he goes on Twitter and says, hey, I have this problem. What if the person gets a response that, hey, I got your mail, I saw your problem, my team is already working, you will get the response as soon as possible. Don't you worry, your problem has been taken care of. Right? Nowadays, the one message that you see everywhere, right? Kindly DM us, we'll get back to you. The moment somebody comes to your DM, you say, share me your mobile number. Right? Your operating model should have the linking between all the platforms, which helps you to understand the customer's problem by the time he reaches out to you. Let's say a customer reached out, assume that he has not even written an email to you. The mobile number is passed, or there's some means, you have his name, you have his code. 80% of the time it matches, right? When you have this, your system should be so predictive. Tell that what was his recent 24 hours activity in the system,
Hmm.
so that you say that, okay, something broke there. You're proactively identifying the problem. I might not propose that you do this for every customer, but at least for the person who's reaching out in pain, telling that, I need a support, right?
Absolutely.
That is something an operating model can do, and that is where CRM breaks, right?
Yeah.
It is only just a data set of things to show you that, okay, these are the data set, but it never tells you the pain points of why a customer is coming out to you.
Okay. What's your take on this?
Um, I think traditionally, yes, we've not got
Yeah.
any of this. I mean, we've got data, but we've not got insight. We've not got it anywhere near real time for you to
Yeah.
matter. Um, I think that is changing, though. I think with the kind of things that you can do with
Hmm.
CRMs and AI currently, I think you have the ability to not just understand the problem, but also understand where the sentiment is at. But the problem, I think, is the next step beyond that. Almost everyone does sentiment analysis now of that interaction,
Hmm.
right? But do you put together all the sentiments over time and plot it and say, has it been this way, that way, is it flat? Like, nobody does that, right? And then you do something external to that by saying, I'll do an NPS survey. And then you do an NPS survey and then you find something completely different there from what the interactions that you've had. You thought he was a great customer, gave us positive CSAT ratings, and then it's gone and said that your product lacks features. And then you speak to that customer, he says, no, everything's great. So there is so much fluctuation of emotion, right? And especially in fintech, there's so much emotional fluctuation to it as well,
Yeah.
right? There is anxiety when a transaction doesn't go through. I think you would know that. And then imagine that when you're saving for an event, like you're saving for your child's marriage, you're saving for your retirement, and then something of that happens, right? And you have to be able to read that, right? Another, and this is also specific, so it's a little more harder.
Hmm.
But there are more general things as well. Like for anyone following the markets, the last 2-3 months has been choppy and unpredictable and volatile. Everyone who comes to small case has a general negative tone because their investments are in the red. Now, if you don't understand that, and and you talk normally, it takes you time. You're always behind in that conversation to then figure out, oh, they're not happy with this, right? I just invested here and it's dropped 3% in one day, right? And but your returns shows me it's 30% over the last 3 years. Like what is this, right? And with if you understand some of those wider things as well, is general talk about it. Of course, social listening will help you understand that that chatter is largely negative now because of how volatile it is. you would know how to handle or what to at least expect when a
Hmm.
customer talks about returns.
Hmm.
It's largely out of your control. So then you know what you can say or what you shouldn't be saying, at least, right? So I think that's where we can do a lot more now than we ever could,
Hmm.
right? And unfortunately, still we don't use it to its full potential, right? And CRM can be that place where you get all the info. Maybe take off the cognitive load by, raising a flag and tell you, okay, this customer, here's something to watch out for. But beyond that, I think if you keep the human in the loop, that's where I believe the magic happens, because you
Yeah.
can't codify everything.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But if you have the ability to use those signs to then say all this is not important,
Hmm.
you can put as many markers as you want, but now these are top three to focus, right?
Correct. No.
And so that really helps
No, you said
streamline.
human in the loop is super important. I believe one of the common themes for why human in the loop is empathy is the keyword of the day every day in customer conversation. We need to be empathetic. We need to be empathetic. And there's a general consensus that you can't beat human in empathy. That's a general consensus. It's like we could have polarizing thoughts about it, but that's there. What, where do you see we, opportunities through the use of AI, through the use of technology, right, or through the use of newer operating models? How can we make sure that empathy is part of every conversation that our companies have with the customer, regardless of channel, regardless of this thing, uh, right? Because you need to have that empathy when the markets are down. Like how you can't say hi, having a good day. No, they're not clearly having it. But so how do you think that departments should focus on making empathy, like it should be empathetic conversation by default? You want to take that question first?
Um, I think there are two parts to this.
Hmm.
One, of course, the very cliched, you should know your customer,
Okay.
right? Uh, there are more effective ways when we can do it now, but that general sentiment is still the same. You need to know your customer. And then there's the internal alignment aspect of it. You can know your customer really well, but if you can't do anything about it, you can't move the needle, then you still fail on delivering the empathy. A very simple exercise that um, I've I've personally enjoyed. It's a very simple thing. You pick up people from tech, product, marketing,
Hmm.
and you just make them live a day in a life of CX, right? Let them take queries, let them, whichever channel it is, right? It just changes the way they look at a problem when you go back to them saying customer has a problem. It just creates a sense of empathy, which I think no amount of you telling that the customer is in pain, this customer will escalate, he is going to write on Twitter, he is going to do this, that's not going to work. But if you get them there and get them to solve even 10 of these, even if just to answer them, right? I think it really builds this sense of empathy. So we used to have this rotating cast of people, like a few people from every team who would come in and just do this. And that moved mountains
Hmm.
because they realized something of, wait a minute, you don't have direct access to this? You need to go here, do this, do that, and then find that? Wait, I can do that. And then someone spends a couple of hours and fixes that because that guy was from tech. He knew the DB. He knew what to do, and he did it. And so, in the end of like a few months, you realize that all the things which were we used to use hacks
Hmm.
were just mainstream. Saved a lot of time, right? So it built empathy. On the other hand, I think after now that we know the customers, we collect so much data and we do very little with it, which is an absolute shame, right? We should at least use it in this moment when the customer really is asking for that attention, right? I think that's where the insight part of it comes. You can have all the data you want, but in that moment, what you need is insight, not
Hmm.
the data.
Correct.
So if you can leverage AI to do that, I think in combination, the two parallel tracks effectively, but if you get them aligned and tuned together, I think then you really work wonders for your customers. And then with consistency. You can't
Yeah.
just do it one day
Right.
fantastic and then come back the next day and you give them a really poor experience. So that consistency is also very important for them to buy in to this. And then they're in a more forgiving mood if something goes wrong once, which invariably will. So you need to buy that equity with them. So you have to have that consistency. So that consistency kind of trumps all of it. You can't just have an up and down experience.
No, that's actually a great hack. Uh, what a great way to for
You're
the
not
rest of
going to
the.
be very popular if you suggest it. I'm just, if you're wondering where I lost all my hair, that is how.
Anthony, what about you? Like, uh, how how do you think we can make empathetic conversation as default for every conversation that we have?
Just adding my 2 cents to what he said, right? It will relate to every CS folk here, right? When you take some point to your product and say, don't, you just release a product and I think it's not working out. They feel like, acha, theek hai. That's all, right? You know the pain. And like as he said, there's something that we also did, right, at Kiwi. Many of you handle this Play Store reviews, correct? You see random guy comes over there, writes random thing that even I don't know that I continued as a product, as a process or not. And the worst thing in life is Google does not share me any information of that person, right? It is so difficult. Somebody writes his name as superstar, not one, and writes your product is shit. I reached out to you yesterday and you didn't solve my problem. I am like, okay, you gave me 1 star, fine. There are so many superstars everywhere. Empathy, right? I'll have to solve this problem. I'll have to drag him to me somehow. Find this guy, right? Solve his problem so that the superstar gives me 5 stars next day. Drag 5 or 4 marketing guys, my product. Everybody say, you just solve me 5, random reviews. Get that guy, make him satisfied. Bring me 4 stars. Fine. I'm the happiest person in this entire company, right? When you tell that, the amount of pain that they go through, everybody does not like me on the table when I go and talk about this. That is when they feel, okay, it takes so much of an effort to just get one customer, move his bars from 1 star to 3 or 4 or 5, right? That is when they start using all their IIM brains and everywhere thinking, what are the faces of a customer would need help in my app, right? How would I empathize him on the app itself? How would I make him stop coming to the service in a positive manner? Let's say, is my app solving his problem? Is my content being empathetically addressing his problem, right? Is he feeling that, okay, if I'm going to reach out to someone tomorrow, does he have any idea about how much pain that I'm going through? That is why, because a person is seeing in his app, he's having a problem, he's opening Google, he goes to Play Store, he writes hard coded slogans and everything, then he submits a review. His effort is increasing here. If a customer is putting so much of an effort, right, just think, it's unbelievable how much of frustration that he has in his mind, right? But what I also think is, we also use conversational AI today, right, to have the first level of conversation with customers and then understand whether this has to be handled by a human agent or not. The first question the customer raises out is, connect me a human agent. This is the first thing that he writes. People are still learning about AI. We are trying to make them understand, okay, you can trust AI today. It's not what you see in movies that happens every time, but still we try to solve your problem. But what we can also do is, we have greatest minds already with us. We have the great product, we have great engineering team who can also help. The bot can learn by itself, the AI can learn by itself based on the conversation it has. But what we don't focus is, does the AI focus on, this customer came to me for the third time in this month, he came to me for the fourth time, or is he coming for the same problem again? If it is able to focus that, it would be easy maybe to train the bot also how to empathize with the customer, how to prioritize the problem. The moment that level of priority happens, definitely the ticket becomes empathized by the product also, assuming that, okay, I have to push the tech definitely now, keep my release aside for a minute, go talk to a person and say, this product has to be fixed somehow. I know this is a very small bug. Why? Because I have 1 lakh customers every day coming in my product. It's just that 1 or 2 customer who reach out to CS. Every time when I go to people and say, I have a problem, they say, how many people? I said 2. I have 1 lakh customers coming in, I cannot prioritize. But they don't know the pain of the 2 customers who drag you till writing an email to RBI telling, I didn't win this 1 rupee yet. Right? I want a penalty on this. But how do we empathize is this? Indirectly push everyone, make them feel how difficult is it to solve a problem, and to understand even that 1 rupee matters to customer, how much difficult, how much effort does he put to come out and reach out to us, right? Similar, application that we'll have to do to AI. Something we might learn in future. Something AI also involves, right? Empathy is something that everybody is looking into. I feel AI will also learn in future, and we will make good products.
Yeah. No, I think the key takeaway for the empathy side of discussion is actually, Shalil, this is in our hypothesis, right? Our hypothesis for coming together and making this is democratizing insights so much that can it influence empathy in every conversation. I think we've heard on the same hypothesis. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion. We would love to take more questions. We are here. We'll take questions one on one outside. And thank you so much for sharing these insights. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for patiently listening. I hope we put up a good show.
Begin.